Hi, and welcome to another video from Gravity.io, this time talking about JWT authentication on APIs, and I've actually got an extension which is talking about platform policies as well. Okay, so let's first of all head over to API Manager. See our API Manager. What we're going to do first of all is create an API. Okay, we're going to go for a v4 API and we're going to call it JWT demo test. So let's do that. JWT demo test. Let's give it a version number. Let's give it this test. Backend proxy, HTTP. The target URL, let's just hit the London Tube Network API. Okay, got lots of options there, but we're just going to go for the defaults there. And you can see very quickly we've been able to create an API. Let's deploy it. And let's see it in API Manager there. So let's publish that API as well so that we can use it later. Okay, all published and deployed. Okay, so let's first of all head over to Postman just to make sure that that API is working. So we're just going to head over to Postman. You can see JWT demo test. Yeah, and we can see it get a status 200 there, so that's neat. Okay, cool. So now what we want to do is actually create a plan, which is a JWT plan. So at the moment in consumers, what you can see here is that it's got a keyless plan, and that's why we were able to hit that API without any auth and get a result back. But what we're going to do is create a JWT plan now. So let's go to add new plan, JWT, let's call it JWT demo test plan. Okay, this is our test. Okay, next. Okay, so this is where you need to configure it now. So what we're going to use is you can pick your signature, but for this example we're going to use HMAC HS256. Here you've got to give it a key, a given key. So let's now give it a key. The way that I generate my keys is that I use just a website. You can actually see the website that I'm using. This is a test client ID. This is a test client ID. SHA-256, base64 encoded. If you compute the hash there, you get that value. So I'm just going to use that key in the resolver parameter there. The rest I'm going to stick to the defaults, do next. Not create any policies at the moment. And I'm going to publish that plan. Okay, so what I've done now is that I've created a JWT plan. There's two published. I'm going to delete my keyless plan now, just so that we can't hit the API without some authentication. So let's deploy that. And now let's test the plan again, just to make sure that we're getting the right result. And now it's unauthorized because it's not got a token in there. Okay, so that's what we expect. So now let's actually think about how we're going to create the token. So what we're going to do now is create an application which is going to subscribe to that plan. Okay, so now let's head over to the developer portal in Gravity. Let's create an application. Let's call it JWT demo test app. This is our test. Next, just let's give it a name there. Let's pick our client ID. We can just pick any one. This is a test client ID. Do next. Let's find our application, JWT, and ours was called demo test. Let's subscribe to that now. Please give me access. Okay, so now what we've done is we've pretended to put our consumer hat on of that API, and we've requested access to that API through the developer portal. Now we put our manager hat on and we go to consumers and we look at subscriptions, and yeah, somebody wants to use our API. It's in a pending state at the moment. So now let's validate that subscription. Okay, cool. So now what we've done is that that person has requested an app. We've put the client ID in there with a client ID, and now what we need to do is generate a token to actually use that API. Okay, and what we're going to do to generate this token for a demo is just head over to JWT.io. You can see here that the algorithm that we're using is HS256. It's a JWT token. The client ID is client. This is a test client ID which we want to use. The expiry is Monday, May the 20th. Currently it's Sunday, May the 12th. So that works. It's in the future. And the key is the important one. That's the one that we generated in this application here. So now let's just test that. Head over back to here, put that into there, and now what you will see is that this key has been generated. Okay, so let's take this key now and head back over to Postman. Okay, so if we go back here, and now you can see that we've got unauthorized there. The token, let's paste in that token that we generated through JWT.io, and you can see now that we're authenticating. So it's not just any token, because if we put a 1 in front of that, we get unauthorized again. It's the token that we generated using our client ID and the secret as well. So that's basically how to generate, how to use the JWT authentication in Gravity. Now the next step is to actually use that in a platform policy. So let's try that. Okay, so essentially a platform policy is something that's held right across the board for all your APIs. And if you go to, let me just go back again, you can go to API management and go to organization and go to policies. And the policies that you create here apply to all the APIs in your organization. So if you go back to Postman here, you can see that the API is working because there's no platform policy. But let's add that platform policy. So let's add a JWT token, and let's just create HMAC and then save. Okay, so at the moment it's not been configured correctly, but if we head over to Postman, then this should now fail. You get an error essentially because it's not being configured properly. So the policies, what we've proved there is the policies being here and it's being applied to the APIs. But in order to actually configure that properly, what we can actually do is if we go into JWT token, we can actually add our resolver parameter. And this was the key that we used earlier. So let's take that and put that into there and paste that into there and save. Now what this is doing, it's authenticating that any API you hit is coming in with that resolver token. And of course what we did is we've configured our API and our token to use that secret that we generated. So if we send now, then it should resolve successfully. And there we go. We've got our API working with the JWT token being authenticated at the platform level rather than at the API level. So that will mean all our other APIs are not working successfully because they haven't got the JWT token being authenticated in the actual API themselves. So a really quick way to create JWT tokens, but also add the authentication at the platform level so that they apply to all the APIs in your organization. Hope that makes sense. Please come back if you've got any questions. These demo websites are obviously ones I've used for the demo. They're temporary because they're not part of Gravity, but they're quite good for generating these keys and also testing them as well. So thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you on the next video.